The average price for a pint of beer in the U.S. is $3.76, where the average price of an ebook on Amazon.com is $6.48. So if you take the cosine of the number of pints sold along with the derivative of the titles published on all the marketplaces, it tells you that I am Evo Terra. And this is the Books and Beer Hangout.
Welcome to another episode of Books and Beer. Our topic today is ebook pricing and distribution. My name is Jeff Moriarty, and I have my beer ready to go. So let's talk to our two wonderful guests for today and let them introduce themselves and what they are drinking. Ed.
Hi, I'm Ed Robertson, sci-fi novelist primarily. Today I've got a Negro Modelo here. Just become a big fan of it.
Nice demonstration there, too, with the swig. We don't want any prop beer here. All right. Brand.
Hi, I'm Brand Gamblin. I'm a sci-fi writer as well, light fantasy, and I actually have nothing to drink. I'm drinkless.
Wow, we will have to make up for that.
I'm the designated columnist, I guess.
Good idea. Good idea. You drive this hangout home or
right.
something like that. Well, continuing on for the beer, I am drinking a Boulevard Smokestack Series Collaboration White IPA. I just got back from the very average state of Oklahoma. It's okay, and came back with a lot of beer, and so I am trying to drink it all. Jeff.
So, coming all the way back around, I am doing a Deviant Dales, which is larger than your average can. So, Brand, I've got your beer back in this particular case.
Yeah,
awesome. As that works out. So, thank you both for being here. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, we're talking about ebooks here, and I figure we should talk about the 800-pound elephant that's in the room and just get into this conversation of it's pricing time, fellas. What's the right price for an ebook? Ed?
$13.25.
$13.25. Okay, that's an easy enough answer on that.
Hold
one.
I'm writing that down.
Now I'm kind of kidding, obviously, because there are a lot of factors that goes into that. But let's talk about those factors. I know, Brand, you've gone through the Kindle store with pricing, and I know that Ed, you've done the exact same thing. What do you guys think? And maybe you can kick us off, Ed. How should an author start thinking about pricing their book the right way?
It depends really heavily on what you're trying to do, and like the genre you're working in. For instance, like romance seems to be a little lower priced for the most part, at least in both indie and traditional stuff. So. Whereas, some other genres like historical fiction tend to be more expensive, so that's a factor. And the way that Amazon's sort of algorithms rank books on their popularity list these days are also factored by price, so that's a factor. If the book is a series, that's another factor. If you want to pin down a hard number, I would recommend authors sell between $4 and $5 for the most part, but I mean, there's a lot of wiggle room there.
I definitely want to get into some of the algorithmic issues because I know you spent a lot of time studying that. So before we dive deep into that one, I want to give Brand an opportunity to chime in there. Brand, you've priced more than one book on Amazon.com. What's your approach?
Yeah, not just me, but I've talked to a lot of other authors who are trying. As self-publishers, we can change it as much as we want, and we'll try a month at one price and a month at another price. And I got to agree pretty much with what Ed says. What I've seen is around $2.99 to $4.99 is the sweet spot. Obviously, that's assuming everything else is even, which it isn't.
Okay, so I'm going to back up and play devil's advocate here. Not really devil's advocate, but I've had this conversation about 100 times. Every time I talk to an author coming from traditional publishing, where that's where they wanted to go, they want to put the same price on an ebook that they would see in the store. Why does that not work?
Yeah, it's funny. There was someone from our circle who was traditionally published who actually got really mad at me at one point because I started making an argument for the $1 book. Not as I'm going to sell my book at $1 forever, but just as a promotional price. For a month or so, I'm going to sell it for 99 cents. I'm going to take the 30% hit, whatever. And he got mad at me. He said it was devaluing the art. He said anything less than $10 hurts everyone else. You're not just hurting your own sales, you're hurting everybody. And that's a hard thing to come across, because a lot of these are your friends who are saying you're hurting me by selling it at this level. But one of my favorite quotes from Nathan Lowell was, if I see your book priced at $10, that doesn't tell me that you value the art. It tells me you don't understand the industry.
Yeah, that's a pretty good quote. I mean, $10 is more than a mass market paperback costs. I think that you reach a level of like extreme resistance to ebooks once you start exceeding the cost of physical copies. So, I mean, that to me is just, you can sell at like $8, $9, $10, but it's really hard, and I think that you start to shoot yourself in the foot once you get up into that range. Well, if you've got the fan base to support it, go for it, but that's just not the practical reality of where at least the indie book market is right now.
Yeah, so, I think a lot of the contention is based on the ego side. Just people saying, like, look, I love... You always hear that everybody has one book inside them. I think there's a certain amount of fear that they're saying, like, look, this is my only book. If I don't sell it for everything I can get, I'm screwed.
Okay, so following up on that and something you mentioned before, Ed, you talked about how different types of books have different prices. Are all books worth the same price? I mean, is there anything you would add to that in terms of the types of ranges? I mean, what is more acceptable as a higher priced book?
Later books in a series, a lot of people price those higher. Nonfiction, I don't know a ton about it, but in general that seems to, that is a big exception to the pricing range. You can price that a lot higher than fiction if you have a compelling enough topic. Kind of if you have just been able to establish a higher price, then it works. I've seen a handful of indies who are up in, like the $6 range, and which I think is hard for a lot of us to pull off, although maybe not as hard as we assume, but they sell tons of books at that range. So if you get your audience used to buying at a certain price point, I think that you can sort of establish that as who you are, and it's just not a big deal anymore. Whereas somebody's been selling their books for $3 for 6 months or something, and they suddenly double the price. I think that is going to impact their sales going forward negatively.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, is what the market will bear, and that's one of the lovely things about being able to change your price constantly. Is there was this great piece from Jay Conrath where he said, "I found this book that I priced at $1.99. I don't know why, but it was my bestseller. It started rocketing up the charts. I don't know what happened, but I do know the very first thing I wanted to do was to price it at $3.99, and then $4, and let's see what happens. It's all about what the market will bear. And so if you've got a fan base already prepared, yeah, they'll pay $7, $8, $10 if that's what they're expecting."
Earlier, Ed, you brought up the algorithm, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand, although we encounter algorithms every day. Anybody who uses your dog, perhaps, is one. Anybody that uses Google, for example, there's an algorithm to determine which of those 75 gazillion pages comes up first. And that's the same for Amazon. When you search for something on Amazon, there's an algorithm that determines what products are going to be shown. It's not just a simple alphabetical listing. Obviously, it's complex. Obviously, Amazon has not made that transparent because it would be very easy to game the system. But can you explain the algorithm a little bit more than I have right here?
I don't know about the search algorithm that well yet.
Yeah, let's not talk about that one.
But the one I do believe I understand anyway is what we refer to as the popularity list. I don't think it's ever described that way on Amazon. You'll see an option to sort by popularity on a certain listing. It's not the bestseller list that only lists the top 100 in a given category. This is the complete listing of every given category. So, in sci-fi there might be 50,000 titles in it that you could reach. And the way it works as of now, and this changed back at like the start of May, and it changed in March too. So this could change tomorrow again for all we know. It's a combination of, it weights the last 30 days of your book's activity, counting sales, weighted by price to a certain degree, and counting any free books you've given away at about a 10% ratio of free to paid. So, 10 free books equals 1 paid book. And it doesn't include borrows in there either, as far as we've seen. So right, in practice, like if you sell a lot of books at a high price and maybe give some books away, then you'll do well on it. It's pretty straightforward once you get the gist of it.
But like Google, they're not about to tell you exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can't imagine they would, and I can also see them, like Google, changing that algorithm over time, because as different things happen, as we have free promotional giveaways, or if you are extra successful in various areas, I see them being very Google-like and adding more complexity to the algorithm, which, it's to me, it's not something to game, although people actually try to game it. And ultimately, what Google or what Amazon is trying to do is the same thing that Google's trying to do, and that's really give you the best results when you go look. Popularity can mean a lot of different things, and not necessarily just number of titles sold anymore. Complicated.
Right, and it's actually not that easy to game right now, because essentially to do well on the lists, you either have to sell a ton of books or give away a ton of books. And if you can do that, then you already win, basically. So,
Brand, anything to add on the mysterious magical algorithm?
I've tried. Ed knows a lot more about what the actual numbers are. What I've been doing has been just hit and miss, attempting one thing after another. In terms of gaming, at one time I tried this thing where I said, look, send me an email and I will gift you a copy of my book. Because every time I gift it on Kindle, it counts as a sale. Let's see if that actually affects the ranking. And so, on the one hand, hey, I got a lot of books out there and I got a promotion, but on the other hand, I also determined, no, it doesn't affect your ranking. Mm-hmm. If you're the one buying it, even if you're buying it for someone else, that doesn't affect it. And so, well, I don't feel it's kind of white hat hacking, I guess, but I think they are very careful about making sure nobody's gaming that.
If you went back to the person who first told you that, they probably just wanted a free book, so told you that, so you would have set them up, and then so.
Well,
Why didn't I think of that?
in the Kindle documentation, it says that gifted copies count towards rank, but it doesn't. They just there's just misleading information right there.
If anything, it's probably the 1/10 or less, because I really didn't notice that big a difference. Which I think we should talk about Kindle Select, because I think both of us have worked with that one too.
Oh, let me get on my Segway and ride that one right there. So, Kindle Select. First, since you brought it up, could you give us a quick definition of what it is for anyone watching?
Kindle Select is a system where you agree to sell your book only on Amazon, and in exchange, they are supposed to help you with promotion, and they give you a certain number of free days. I think it's like 5. But for 90 days, you can sell only on Kindle. And let me tell you, they are serious about that. I had books selling in all different places, so much that I forgot where I had everything. But man, Amazon reminded me. They just said, "Hey, we just found out you're here. Get out of there." So yeah, the Select. It's the main draw for it is that Amazon will rank you better while you're on there, and will give you those free promotion days, during which you do rocket up the charts.
So now, are they ranking you better because you're moving more copies because of the promotions, or are you just getting a boost for being in Select?
Honestly, I think you get a boost just for being in Select, because as soon as I got in there, I noticed that the rank started going down without actually selling any more books than before. Now, It wasn't as massive as I got with the free promotion, but that was what I saw.
What kind of a shift in rank were you seeing?
It was something like, I want to say a third of the total. I think I went from like 100,000 to 60 or 70. Mm-hmm. So it was statistically significant, but it didn't last. Like anything, if it's not constantly ongoing, it's not going to last.
Mm-hmm.
So what book? Give us an example of one of maybe the first books that you did with Kindle Select. What your sales were like beforehand, and why did you choose the book that you did to put into Kindle Select? Like, was it the first in the series, or just one that was kind of languishing? Or?
Well, I picked my oldest book because I figured that was the one that the most people. I mean, the people I know are the ones that are going to buy it first, and so they've probably already bought it. And that was Tumblr. It was a sci-fi story in the Heinlein vein about a young woman who goes off to mine asteroids and find her fortune among the stars. And I put that up there. It did better, but not remarkably so. This was 3 years after I'd first put it on Amazon, though, so it was not, a spring chicken. It did a little bit better. It, like I said, it dropped to about 70,000, went back up to where it was. I split up my free promotion days, so I did, 2 weekends over different months. And during those weekends, it spiked huge, and I saw, hundreds of copies were given away. And I got on several of the popularity lists that Ed was talking about. Did really well, but then as soon as Monday came, it started going back to where it was. So
Okay.
I was just going to say, it's good for promotion. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ed, I'd like to get your input, and what kind of dog do you have?
I've got 2 actually. One is, I think she's a Chihuahua, and the other's a Chihuahua Corgi, so they're pretty vocal little guys.
Notice that. All right, so what has been your experience, and what did you put into Kindle Select for the first time?
The first time was, let's see, a fantasy novella I had just written, and let's see, I was releasing it like literally at the same time that Select rolled out, last November or December, whenever that was. So, I put it in there to give it a shot. Nothing that significant came out of it, at least not compared to my experiences later down the road. And so, I basically just ignored it for a few months. Then I had a new book coming out in February, and I really hadn't been selling anything anywhere to that point. I think I made like $6 or something in January. So to me it was, why don't I just try out Select and see if that will do anything, because I'm not selling anything on Barnes & Noble. I'm not selling anything on Apple. I'm not selling anything on Amazon yet either. But why not try this new tool and see what happens with it? And some books for me did nothing. Other books did tremendous amounts of. Like one of my books gave away like 25,000 copies in May. So whereas a different book I did around that same time gave away 12 copies in one giveaway I did. So, it just really varies by book in terms of results.
It's this pricing thing is a challenge, because obviously there's exclusive opportunities in there. You can change a price point you want to, but when I look at it, I understand that we are in the nascent time. This is new. This is brand new. And at some point in time, it's going to shake out. Intelligent pricing systems, maybe that's the case. But I'm curious from your points. What do you think? Who should be setting the price? Do you think the author specifically is the best person to set the price of his or her book? Ed, finish up with that.
Yeah, totally, I do. And more specifically, I think the collective of authors is the best person or group to be in charge of this stuff, because that's where you get sort of organic conclusions to things. There isn't a natural price point for ebooks,
Right.
Like Amazon sets certain parameters to encourage authors to sell in a certain range,
Mm-hmm.
by giving you a 70% royalty rate between
Sure.
$3 and $10, that kind of thing. But there isn't a natural, there's no law of nature that says a book has to sell for at least $3 or at least 99 cents or whatever. So the way to find the smartest pricing ranges, and there's several of them in any reasonably complex system, is going to be to give people complete control over their pricing, let them experiment for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and find out what works for them. Because there's so much variation, and there's just no one rule for pricing.
Sure. Let me. I'm setting you guys up for something, but I want to get Brand in. So, Brand, give me your feedback on that. Do you think who should be controlling the price?
Anytime anything starts sounding like freedom, the libertarian in me comes out, and I'm saying,
Christ, I forgot.
I know, the author should be. At the same time, I know there are people who, they want to sit and they want to write their books, they want to throw it over the wall and just say, it's out there, I don't care.
Yeah,
Let somebody else do it.
Well,
and so
I
in
think
that case,
I'm sorry, but I think that's going away. I mean, authors simply have more control these days, and there's much less to throw over the wall. But here's the reality check on that one, guys. So forget about the books you've written right now. Let's go forward in your career when you've got 30, 40, 50, 100 titles that are available. Nothing ever goes out of print in an electronic world. Do you really want to be the one trying to chase down the right price for all 125 titles you have? That just seems impossible to me.
I think the person who should set the price is the person who is paying attention to it and wanting to set the price. Again, if you want to just set everything to $4 and say I'm done, you can do that. If you have 50 books and you don't want to pay attention to 50 books, you set them all to $4. At the same time, I know people who will game this like it's a stock market and just like, oh, this one's trending, let's shift it up a little, and they end up not writing anything because they're just shifting their one book up and down.
Ed, what do you think? How's that going to work out when you have 100 titles?
I actually have never thought of this, but the first things that leap to mind is if you have 100 titles and you're selling a lot of them, then you could probably afford to hire somebody to manage this stuff, And if they aren't selling, then you should probably be paying pretty close attention to what their prices are, to what you can be doing to push them. So, either hire somebody to do it for you, or you should be taking care of that yourself. I don't know. I can see it taking a lot of your time, but I don't know. The things are really in flux right now, but 10, 20, 40 years down the line, when we're talking about having a catalog that big, it's probably going to be a lot more settled down, I would imagine. So
yeah, I would hope so.
I don't know. It's something that I at least don't have to worry about right now. I got like 3 books or something, so it's pretty easy.
It's easy to manage. Yeah, that's easy to manage.
Ask us again in a decade.
All right, we'll come back to that.
All right, we'll schedule this in. So, final question, bit of advice. We have a lot of different people who watch. Some who are just getting into digital publishing, some who have been through it a couple times already. What would be your recommendation for pricing and distribution for a new author and somebody who already has some books out there? Try Kindle Select, stay away from it. What advice would you give? Ed, go ahead.
Ed.
I would try Select right off the bat. If it doesn't work, you've only granted them 3 months of exclusivity. It's not going to be the end of the world to wait that term out. And it can just be like a really powerful tool to sort of give your books a kick to get them started. If it doesn't work, then distribute to the other stores. But the problem is that it's really hard to get the other stores to sell for you, whereas Amazon, it's a bit easier. With the other ones, you basically set your book out there and pray, and that's your business strategy. Whereas, on Amazon, there are a few specific things you can do to sell. So I would try that first. If it doesn't work, try something different. But you won't know until you give it a shot.
Yeah, we keep coming back to Amazon because it really is. I mean, with the books that I've sold on every different venue I could find, and 99% of my sales have been through Amazon. There's just print even. It doesn't even matter. It's just all Amazon ebooks. And so, like Ed said, give it a try. You've only lost like 3 months of not selling somewhere else when you weren't selling somewhere else anyway. So yeah.
Although, if you do have like a backlist that's ready to go, it might not be a dumb idea to distribute to all the stores. Because one thing that people have found that's effective at generating sales on, like iTunes, Barnes & Noble, is to, if you got a series, to set the first book permanently free, and people find that, get funneled to your other books. So that's something that people have found as a workable strategy. So
yeah, free is definitely powerful, and I would love for us to come back at some point in time in the future and talk about that as a strategy. But as it is, we are out of time. That's a wrap for the Books and Beer Hangout. Thanks very much to you, Brand, and to you at around 6 p.m. Pacific time as a Google Hangout on air and simulcast on YouTube Live. Links to all of our prior episodes, plus more information about the guests from today, you can find those at booksandbeer.com. For more insight and education to help authors survive and thrive in a digital world where there are no dogs, please visit epublishunum.com. For Jeff Moriarty, I'm Evo Terra. Thanks for watching.